r/AskReddit by Reddit. People who work in gun shops, what are some red flags you've seen that made you deny a sale? I had one guy who was a resident from another state come in and say that he wanted to buy a CZP-07. I told him I legally can't sell pistols to out-of-state residents, and he got pissed and stormed off. Maybe 20 minutes later he comes back with his brother, who was an in-state resident, and as soon as his brother walks up to the counter he points to the exact same gun and says, "I want to buy that one." He didn't even ask to hold it or look at it first. That's a clear straw purchase. I told them to kick rocks. I'm not going to break the law for you. I had another guy try to buy a shotgun and answered yes to having been convicted of a felony. I asked him if he was actually a felon. You'd be surprised how many guys accidentally check the wrong box. This MF looked at me and said, "Yeah, is that a problem?" Dude, yes, it's a problem. What's a straw purchase? Purchasing a firearm for someone else. Usually because that other person would not be able to legally purchase it themselves. I used to work as management in Walmart, and as such had to be licensed to do any job in the store, including firearm sales. There had been many cases of background checks not clearing, which is normal. One that I made a judgment call to refuse, however, was the guy who kept joking that he most certainly was not under any circumstances going to use this .22 rifle to shoot his wife. You get all sorts of rednecks who think they're hilarious while they're gearing up for the next hunting season, but by the third time he brought up not shooting his wife, I just shut down the entire process. Had to have him removed from the building after his breakdown turned verbally aggressive. As they were talking with me about various aspects of the purchase, they would occasionally consult with the person that was with them. There was no person with them. Hold on, let me get a second opinion. Spins around 360 degrees. "Oh, I'm sorry, was my twin brother giving you trouble?" Hand inches towards panic button. Gun store I worked at had a varied and diverse clientele. Usually that meant that more law-abiding citizens were looking to purchase firearms, but the usual wacko or two would come by. The one I remember clearest was the guy who came in and wanted to see only two types of firearms, a pistol grip shotgun and a large frame revolver. As I was asking him what he wanted those specific types of firearms for, since they aren't really the greatest for home defense or personal protection, he tells me that he wants a revolver because it won't leave evidence at the scene of a shooting. I noped out of that one and told him we didn't have the type of equipment he was in search of. I passed along his name to the local police, but nothing ever came of it. Obligatory, I didn't work there, but at a gun show in Texas, I wanted a new carry gun. So I was browsing the handguns when a couple next to me decide they want a nice Kimber 9mm. And why not? It's a great looking gun. They start to fill out the paperwork and get into a huge fight with each other about which address to use. Both are in Texas, so no out of state issues. The lady behind the counter is trying to tell them to just pick one. It legitimately does not matter, but they get angrier and angrier about whether to register it to the ranch house or the townhouse. The lady tries to explain that there is no registry and it could not ever possibly matter. When the guy gets so frustrated he screams at the counter lady, "This is too goddamn difficult just to buy a ducking gun." She suspends the sale, tells the guy he's obviously of the wrong temperament to own a firearm, hopes he doesn't have others, and calls security. The wife is now angry that they are not buying a gun, and I wanted to tell her, based on the scene I just saw, someone is saving your life or his and keeping the other out of prison. Something I can answer. When I was younger, I landed a seasonal position as a gun counter person at a local gun store. I never actually received a training or anything on when and why to deny a sale. We were told to only deny a sale if it was an obvious straw buy or the background check came back as a no-go. One morning, about 15 minutes after we opened, two females entered the shop. They stood at the door for a moment and I greeted them and asked if they needed help. One of them responded that they were looking for a gun for home defense. I said sure, we had plenty for that purpose. I began to show her some handguns and some 20 gauge pump shotguns. We chatted for a minute, but the other woman had not said a word the entire time. The other woman had not even glanced at her the entire time. So I asked if she's ever owned or fired a gun before, and she said no. So I suggested maybe attending some courses we offered right there in the shop. She declined and wanted to pick up a gun that day. She eventually settled on a .22 semi-automatic pistol. I tried to argue with her that .22 LR is a poor choice for self-defense, that it's better for a small game use, that it wasn't effective for assailants, that while deadly, as any firearm bullet is, it was less likely to be a stopping round, unless she was able to land precise shots perfectly every time. She argued that the .22 was perfect for what she wanted it for. Whatever, I can't change her mind, and it was a fairly pricey .22 pistol, so I was happy to take the commission. As I had her take a seat in our back room and complete a background check, I had began to box up the weapon. The quiet woman approached me. Turned out the woman was her sister, and was very against the woman purchasing a gun, and tagged along to try and convince her otherwise. She very quietly told to not sell the woman a gun, that she wanted a firearm to shoot at some local kids on her street that skateboard near her property. So that's why she chose the .22. She saw it as a benefit, that it was less likely to kill, and I had essentially argued for more reasons for her to settle on the .22. So I made the call and decided to veto the sale. Luckily for me, she actually checked yes on the line that asks if you have ever been declared mentally defunct. Go figure. I told the woman that I can't sell her the gun because she filled it out that way and that her owning a firearm would be illegal. So she just left the store without a further word. Super weird. One time, the buyer brought in his 10-year-old son with him during our Glock sale day. He was being very discreet around his son about buying a gun. He asked me to see a Glock. I released the mag and cleared the G17 and handed him the gun. He holds it with both hands viewing the side while pointing in his son's direction, and click. I told him you just pulled the trigger and your son is standing there. He said yes, but the gun wasn't loaded. I countered by taking the gun back and refusing to sell him a gun unless he took a crash course with our shop instructor. He agreed as long as it would be quick enough where his son wouldn't notice. We asked him to leave and gained a negative Yelp review out of it too. Ahoho, one I can answer. This was at my old job. So this man comes in at 9:30, 30 minutes before closing. He has his 2 kids with him, and both of them look uncomfortable and won't make eye contact. The man is acting a little strange too, and I feel pretty uneasy about it already, but I chalk all that up to maybe they are just a socially awkward family. So, as we're doing the paperwork, the man is telling me about his life and what all is going on in it currently. Then he says he's divorcing his wife and starts complaining about all the things he doesn't like about her. His kids still haven't spoken a word or looked up, but they're so uncomfortable at this point that they're constantly shifting their arms and legs. I pretend to keep filling out the form while listening closely to what the man is saying. He mumbles under his breath, almost where I couldn't hear him. Sometimes I could just kill her. I was an 18-year-old girl, completely alone on that entire half of the store, and I was flipping my absolute sh*t inside. I pretended not to hear him and kept filling out the form while actually cancelling it. Then I said, okay, I'm at the point where I need a manager's approval for the form to go through. 1 second and let me get him and get the gun out of the back room. So I go to the manager's office and I tell my manager there's a man wanting to buy a gun and I think he's going to kill his wife with it. He says, okay, let me handle it and you stay in here until I come back. By the time he comes back, it's already half an hour past when my shift ended. He said he had to get the police to escort the man out of the store, and I believe he was arrested, but I can't entirely remember since it was a good many years ago. That memory still scares me because what if I hadn't have heard him? I was the only thing standing between him buying a gun that night to shoot his wife. I still wonder about whatever happened to them. My boss was finishing the background check and decided to let the customer and his friend test fire in the range while they wait. They pass the check, but as he goes in to tell them, he overhears them saying things like, yep, he's gonna get what's coming to him and just wait. He's dead the next time I see him. Boss pretended the check didn't fail, but that the problem is on the checker's end. They'll have to come back tomorrow. As soon as they leave, boss called the cops and every other dealer in town to warn them. Cops picked the two guys up later that day. TLDR. Boss overhears customers plotting murder. They get arrested instead of their R15. This is what's supposed to happen, and I'm glad to hear it does happen. Thank you for watching Reddit. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more r/AskReddit videos. Share your stories in the comment section below.